go right to the point first. Well, I guess I'll tell you who I am. My name is Carrie Briseno, and I am a fire patrolman. Was a fire patrolman in the United States Navy. I retired in 2018 with 24 years. 14 years of active duty service and 10 years of reserve. So I had a brat. And I was a brat, actually. That's how I know Lee.
You don't remember my name, uh-huh?
Sure I do. Okay. Her name's Sue. These two were kind of like second parents to me. They were really good to me. I spent a lot of time at their house. Their boys spent a lot of time at my house. I remember giving one of their boys, Russ, a lot of haircuts. I also did some really strange things with their boys, like shave their legs.
Swim team.
We did a lot of fun things together over there in Germany. So I was a brat, actually, and that will work just fine. I was a brat. So I always wanted to join the Navy, but I didn't really want to join the Navy. So when I was applying to colleges, I got a vice presidential nomination to the Naval Academy. Dan Quayle, thank you very much. Love that guy for signing the paper, right? And, but I didn't go there. No way. No way. I thought, man, 4 years after that is a big price to pay for free college. And I had a scholarship to Boston University. So I decided to go to Boston University, but I was kind of a little bit of a loser. I was not grown up. I was not mature at all, and I dropped out after 2 years. I moved to Seattle, and I screwed around there for 2 years, living hand to mouth, doing part-time jobs, doing temp work. And I thought to myself, hey, I know this place. I know a place where I can sign up, and they will give me a place to live, they'll give me food to eat, they'll give me clothes to wear, and they'll tell me what to do. I do not have to be an adult. I can just do what they tell me to do. So I went to the recruiter's office. And I probably got what a lot of people get when they go to the recruiter's office. You get the flavor of the month. What is the job that they need to fill? It wasn't the job that I wanted. I wanted to be a nuke or something crazy like that. So I took the nuke test, and then that just didn't work out because they said there was something about waiting 6 months to get into school because it was so backlogged. Really, my recruiter just wanted me to be a molder for some reason. Wanted me to be a molder, and that was the thing they were doing then. A molder, has anybody ever heard of a molder? Nope. It's a foundry worker. A foundry worker on a ship. Okay? This is a very well-known job, right? It's really popular. Everybody wants to be a molder. Nobody wants to be a molder. Alright, so I went in, I was a molder. But when I was in boot camp, I found out that there was the perfect job for me in the Navy, and I wanted that job. I wanted that job really bad. In fact, I told them at boot camp that they should reclassify me because I want this job so bad. And it was 1994. President Bill Clinton had just signed that, what they call it, the risk rule, right? That's the risk rule. So women could be served in any position in the military except for ground combat. And I said, well, that's just fine for me because I don't want to serve ground combat. I want to serve ocean combat. I want to be a fire patrolman. Anyway, you know, anybody who's been at boot camp can tell you, you are not getting reclassified at boot camp. You are going to do the job that you signed up to do. So I did, went to San Diego for a few months, went to Mulder A School. It's actually kind of a very technical school, and you actually have to have pretty high scores to get in there. It's pretty wild. But my Navy career was a mix of bad luck and good luck. So being a molder was a little bit of bad luck. I went to my first ship, the USS Yellowstone in Norfolk, and I was there we were supposed to go on a cruise, like months after I got there. The captain calls us all down to the mess decks and he says, I got bad news for you, we're not going on a cruise. The reason I picked this ship was because they were going on a cruise. That's why I joined the Navy. I wanted to see the whole world. You know, I'd already been to Germany. There were other parts of the world that I needed to see. But, yeah, he said, no, we're not going on a cruise. We're getting decommissioned. I said, man, this sucks. So after that, we spent a lot of months decommissioning the ship, and we went to this like kind of group detailing. Everybody on the ship gets to call their detailers and get new orders. So this is my perfect opportunity, right? I'm gonna get reclassified and I'm gonna go to fire controlman A school. I actually, while we were in port in Norfolk, I would go to the combat ships and do the qualifications. I can't even remember what they're called now. They don't use them anymore. But they have these little qualification books that you do for the different rates. And I would go over to these ships and I would talk to the people who were doing the job that I wanted to do. I would talk to them about their equipment. And being a molder, we actually had secret security clearances. So I could talk to them about a lot of things. I did all that work. So when I get to talk to the detailer, I said, actually I didn't get to talk to the detailer. I want to talk to the detailer and I have this big speech prepared. Detailer, I've been working so hard. I want to be a fire controlman. This is the perfect opportunity to send me to school. You're decommissioning this ship. I know you're going to send me to another tender. I know the tenders are old and I know eventually they're all going to go away. But I didn't even get to talk on the phone. The person in front of me, I was the most junior person in my shop, and the person in front of me, the detailer told him, tell Fireman Hammock she's going to the USS Simon Lake. I didn't even get to talk to him. So there I went to the Simon Lake. The Simon Lake at that time was stationed in La Maddalena, Italy. It was pretty cool. But guess what happened after I got to the Simon Lake? They didn't decommission the ship. They decommissioned my job. The Navy said, we are getting rid of the molder rating and the pattern maker rating. We're getting rid of you. You have this many months. They wanted us to be Navy career counselors because those were open.
Explain a little bit business story. What you see here, if you want to point to something, use this screen here. There's the screen.
You need this.
Oh.
Yeah, they're both up there right now.
I don't. So what do I do to do next one? Just hit it? Okay. Just use the arrow. Okay. All right. I've already done over half of my things, so. All right, so there I was. I'm in Italy. It's beautiful. I need a new job. They want us to be Navy career counselors because it's kind of like a new thing and they want to fill it up with all these people. And I said, I don't want to be a career counselor. And they said, if you don't pick a rate, we're going to give you one. You'll either be a machinery repairman or a hull technician. Now these two things are repair ratings. That's where firemen in the Navy come from. I do not want this. I want to go to combat systems, and I want to go really bad. So the detailers, they actually came over, the molder and pattern maker and optical specialists. They got rid of that rate too. These detailers came over to Italy to talk to us. And my detailer kept telling me, no, 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 you gotta pick something else, you're not gonna be a fire controlman. And my division officer in Italy though, he was a chief warrant officer with 2 Purple Hearts from Vietnam. This guy, we did not mess with him at all. He was pretty much, I mean, this guy's bigger than an admiral, right? 2 Purple Hearts from Vietnam. He was a Navy diver. And you know, he's kind of like, hey, what's going on? I heard there's something wrong with you in your job. And I said, yeah, this detailer won't even talk to me. You you know, and I want to be a fire controlman. So anyway, the chief warrant officer's like, don't worry about this, I'll take care of it. Sure enough, I had orders off of that ship so fast to Great Lakes to go to fire controlman A school. It was amazing. It's like, man, this is awesome. And by the way, that first A school that I went to for Mulder A school in San Diego, they decommissioned that place too. So, there I am. We did flip through these first slides pretty quickly because that's in Great Lakes. That's where I went to boot camp. Boot camp was really fun for me because I had been starving for 2 years and I was really excited about somebody else paying for my food, paying for my clothes, paying for my rent, although the accommodations were a little bit, you know. So this was I couldn't go back home. I just couldn't go back home and stay there. I really didn't have parents that were going to support me at that time. And I probably wasn't in contact with Lee and Sue at the time because that was before Facebook and smartphones and all that stuff. I kind of knew where they were. I believe they were somewhere near Ypsilanti at that time, but I'm not exactly sure. So I couldn't go there. My best friend Robin, her parents, I think they were still in Germany, so I couldn't go there. So joining the Navy was pretty much the best thing I could do to get to have parents again and be young again. I didn't have to make decisions, and I was pretty okay with that. All right, so I kind of moved you all the way up to this part already. My dream job. This is it, my dream jobs. I want to be in combat systems. I actually don't want to be working on a 5-inch gun. But this was my third ship, the USS John Hancock, and this is one of the exercises that we got to do while we were on there. I actually didn't see that happen because I was in combat. But it didn't matter to me. I had my dream job. Just gonna catch up. So I finally made it. Got my dream job. I got orders to a destroyer, my dream ship. The tenders, I had a destroyer tender and a submarine tender. Did not want to be on another tender. Knew I didn't want to be on a carrier. So here I am, my dream job, my dream ship. And actually the next slide is my real dream job. Look at that. Isn't that great? That's a close-in weapon system, and that is the coolest weapon system there is in the world. I promise. So that was my job. As a fire controlman, I went to, about over a year of school in Great Lakes. I went to basic electronics and electricity training, and that was about 6 months. Then I went to fire controlman A school, and that was a lot of working on stuff that we don't have computers to do. Like they started us out working on the fire control problem, which is something that I can't remember. I don't have to remember because this thing's got a computer that works out the fire control problem. And so does every other modern weapon in the United States Navy that has some kind of electronic feature to it. So that was it. That was good stuff. But I didn't get that until I went to Damneck, and I was at Damneck for about 4 more months. By the time I got to my third ship, I was on my second enlistment. But I also went to my third ship as an E5. I was just ramping right up there. Because when I was a Mulder, one person in the Navy advanced to E4. It was me. When I can't remember, it was my detailer, I think on my first ship, or not my detailer, my chief, and he's looking at the results and he's like, you got the bottom score, you were the last person to get promoted. And he's telling this to me like, I'm the last one to get promoted. I'm close to being the first loser. But we got the Navy Times to look at it, Mulder, 3rd class, there's only one name there. My friend at the time, Denny, who was on that ship, she was 2nd class. Her name was the only name there for 1st class, and we actually both went to Italy together to the Simon Lake. So See, bad luck, good luck. So, I love this job. I love being at sea. I love working on ships. I would have done this forever if I didn't have one of those family things. Totally would have done this forever. I went back to Great Lakes. And at Great Lakes, I was an instructor. And that actually turned out pretty cool too, because when I was at Great Lakes, the first thing that happened to me there was I had taken the exam for first class, so E6, when I was on the John Hancock. And as soon as I got to Great Lakes, there was pretty much, bad luck, good luck, right? Bad luck, good luck. The results come out for first class, my name's not on the list. The profile sheets come out and I get called up to go see the division officer, and he says, your score is high enough to be promoted, how come you weren't promoted? And I said, I really don't know. I don't know what's going on. I thought I did good on the test, but I never studied for these tests, so, there's always a chance I could do bad. Mind you, by this time I've been passing them the first time every time. So, I was taking the exam again, my second time taking the first class exam. I'm pretty bummed out. Actually was pregnant with my son at that time. Like I said, family kind of gets in the way of things here. But I actually taken the test. They did not have a test for me when I go there, so this is another sign of bad luck. So they tear a test in half, and I'm sharing a test with another person. In the middle of the exam, they call my name, and I'm like, why are they calling my name during the exam? They only call your name during the exam if something really bad is happening. So I walked up and called my name, and it turns out I don't need the test. I don't need the test because I did get advanced on the last cycle. So that was great. Bad luck, good luck. But being an instructor was career enhancing. I think everybody would tell you in the Navy, go back to Great Lakes if you want to get promoted. And I did. I got promoted to E7 in 2003. So I'm doing pretty good. Joined the Navy in 1994. I'm at E7 in 2003. I'm on the fast track. I am hard at work. And I got to go back to Boston and sail on the USS Constitution. So fun. Again, I love ships. Pretty soon we're going to get to a place I had to go where there was no ships, right? So this was pretty awesome. But I had to leave active duty. I did have to leave active duty, and I was really sad about it. So I joined the reserves. And when I was in reserves, so bad luck, good luck, I got attached to a command called Ship Repair Facility in Yokosuka, Japan. So awesome. So every year for my annual training, I went to Japan. It was a minimum of 30 days. Sometimes I would get my orders extended 3 months, 90 days, 6 months. I got DD-214s off of annual training when I was a reservist because I spent so much time in Japan. This is one of the underways I got to go on, USS Ronald Reagan, while we did their combat systems sea trials. And they were getting ready to, they never really go underway, but scarier. But great view of Mount Fuji. So being in the reserves, I didn't really want to be in the reserves, but hey, I got to go to Japan, and that was the part of the country that or the world that I wanted to see really bad. But I never got to the east or the west coast. I was on a ship in Norfolk. I was on a ship in Italy. Well, trust me, I'd already seen enough of Europe. And then I was on a ship in Florida. I wanted to get to the west coast. It took going into the reserves to get to the west coast. And by west coast, I really mean Asia. Japan is fantastic. I love this job. I was a fleet technical expert. I did tech support to sailors on ships, so I got to work on all the ships. I got to work on a lot of different weapon systems besides my own. I got to troubleshoot a lot of problems over there. We even worked on Coast Guard ships. So cool. So I did pretty good. as a reservist too. And while I was in the reserves, I decided to use my post 9/11 GI Bill to go to law school. Sucker. At some point when I was stationed at Great Lakes, I went ahead and finished that bachelor's degree at the University of Wisconsin, but I wanted to go to law school. So I went to the indoctrination. I got into law school. I got into Cooley, Thomas Cooley Law School, and they had a campus in Great Lakes, or not Great Lakes, boy, I'm so infatuated with Great Lakes, Grand Rapids. Grand Rapids in the orientation, it must be August. And guess what happens to bad luck Carrie? I got orders to Afghanistan. Just like that, short-fused orders. I had less than 30 days to go. People always told me, I thought you had to have 30 days or else they couldn't make you go. Well, guess what? They really can make you go. When they give you orders, you just go. You go. So, everything in my life changed. Everything changed. I went from ships to see that nasty barracks that's in Mississippi, Camp Shelby, Mississippi. The first thing they did to us was to send us to Camp Shelby, Mississippi. Kind of lying, that's the second thing they did to us. The first thing they did to me and all the other chief petty officers and officers was send us to Norfolk for some leadership team building. That was fun. I was the only woman there. We did a lot of training. I'll give you an idea of what kind of training we did. One of our instructors was a SEAL. Another instructor was a Marine who was also an MMA fighter. This was the training we were doing. We were beating each other up. Okay? This was team building. Sometimes we went bowling also. But that's what we did. And then we go to Camp Shelby, Mississippi. Camp Shelby, Mississippi is disgusting. Has anybody ever been to Camp Shelby? It's gross. It's really gross. The only thing that I really liked about that area is it's by this town called Hattiesburg, and that's where Brett Favre's from. And I'm a Packers fan. Brett Favre, we won't talk about him now, but I'll tell you what, back then, he was just great. So, I love Brett Favre. Hattiesburg was pretty swell. On Thanksgiving, they let us leave the base, and we spent the whole day at the movie theater. I watched every movie that was playing. Some of those movies were really, really bad. But it was hot there. My feet never got dry. You just never stopped sweating there. It was September, October. Hot, 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 and gross. Smelled bad. And that's where I lived. I actually lived in the other side of that building because I was the only female in leadership. So instead of letting me live with the 6 other females who were with us, I got my own barracks. So the front half of the barracks was the male chiefs and officers, and the back half of the barracks was for me. It's pretty cool. Bad luck, good luck. All right. So that's where we were. We did a lot of training there. We were training for detainee operations. So end of 2009, we're in Mississippi training for detainee operations. It is mostly the Army National Guard that is training us, and they're very interesting. My favorite parts about training, you're not going to believe this, was the range time. Love being on the range, love shooting the guns. My least favorite parts were some weird stuff that we have to do, like drive around in Hummers and wrap fire hoses over each other's bumpers and drag us out of mud holes and stuff. Who's going to do that in Afghanistan? It wasn't going to be me. I knew what I was doing. We were going to do detainee operations. We weren't going to go driving in Humvees and doing Blue Force tracker stuff. We were not doing that. That was not our job. Our job was to go there and manage detainees. And of course, we had a theory that the Navy was going there because this is post-Abu Ghraib, and we kind of felt like the Army needed some supervision. But we were wearing Army uniforms with Navy insignia on it. So, in January, we got to this place, Camp Sabaloo Harrison in Afghanistan. So, this is, we said we were at Bagram. technically it's a different place than Bagram, but it was just kind of like an addition to Bagram. It was an addition because the whole time that they had just built a detention facility there and opened it up, I think in September 2009. They just built a detention facility there. See those tents? That's where we're sleeping at, in tents. So this is how built up this compound was. But the idea is they can close this off from Bagram because the whole purpose of having this detention facility is we're going to train the Afghan National Army and eventually they're going to get this place. And they did in 2014, they did get it. But at this time, it was still pretty fresh. We got there in January, and this is where I say, this is not the sandbox at all, okay? It happened during the same time, and parts of these wars were happening in sandboxes, but see those rocks there? The reason the rocks are there is because when the Russians left Bagram, at 81 maybe? I don't know, I was a kid. That's what I'm gonna say, I'm a kid. You would never know that my major in college was history. But anyway, the Russians left Afghanistan and they napalmed the place. So underneath those rocks is just this fine, silky dirt, and you can't do anything with it. So they put the rocks down, and those rocks are everywhere. I didn't see any grass. I saw some people trying to grow some trees at the little visitor center where the detainees could visit with family, if some of them had family that could get there to visit. But there were attempts to grow trees. There really wasn't anything there. But the thing that I thought was really crazy there was in January, it's really cold. Really, really, really cold. I did not expect it to be so cold. Because I kind of thought I was going to the sandbox, right? It was cold. And these tents, they were heated. Isn't that great? 8-man tents, they were heated. But it was so cold there that these heaters couldn't keep up, and the transformers kept blowing. And they would only blow at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So you don't even know you're asleep, wearing everything, your sweats, your uniform, you know, as much sleeping bag as you can get wrapped up in. And you go to sleep, everything's fine, you wake up in the middle of the night and you're just freezing cold. And then of course you're out there trying to figure out which breaker is out there, what do we gotta do? Before they could fix that issue, they did put us in some different housing. This is kind of a picture of when we got there. So on the left, you can see there's nothing stopping us, or there's nothing preventing us or keeping us from the outside except for barbed wire and chain link fences, essentially. There was nothing there. I started running when I was in Afghanistan. We would run the perimeter, and you would run, on some sides there were minefields, and you would see people, we had people out there working the minefields, not Americans, of course. This is crazy. The only thing separating us from, you know, the native Afghan people is this little fence. And they've told us, of course, that these are a bunch of terrorists and you're going to be in this prison guarding terrorists, and yeah, watch out because the terrorists are going to try to break the other terrorists out, and it's just blah, blah, blah. Eventually, before I left, they had these T-walls around most of the place. But when we got there, it was pretty much like on the left, and